Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stepped onto the Newsmax stage, her expensive designer outfit exceeding most citizens' monthly housing costs, poised to instruct a multi-billionaire about economic disparateness. Donald Trump glanced just once at the former bartender-turned-representative who'd never administered a business payroll and grinned. He had built a massive organization supporting 22,000 workers, while she had recently driven 25,000 potential Amazon rolls out of New York, proclaiming it a triumph. This event promised to be entertaining. Newsmax had promoted it as a clash between free enterprise and collectivism, the dialogue America truly needed, an unmediated showdown between Donald Trump, the symbol of American market capitalism, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the fresh representation of democratic socialism. The network recognized this event would generate immense viewership numbers, a real estate mogul versus a youthful progressive icon. The builder of Manhattan Towers against the individual who equated tax incentives with funds to be reallocated. AOC had concurred because she believed her expertise in social media, her sharp online retorts honed on Twitter, and her draw for younger voters would shield her. For 3 years, she had been a celebrated figure within the progressive media, lauded for her clever digital clapbacks and popular viral videos. She presumed she could apply the exact tactics that proved effective on Instagram in a confrontation with Trump. She possessed pre-prepared talking points regarding corporate avarice, labor exploitation, and the principled argument for democratic socialism. She had no comprehension of the material Trump had readied. For 2 weeks, Trump had collaborated with economists, corporate leaders, seasoned executives from his organizations, and researchers to construct a comprehensive critique of socialism and AOC. Specifically, this wasn't merely an attack on her, it was a defense of capitalism utilizing evidence that would connect with average Americans tired of being preached to about inequality by those who had never established a job or authorized a paycheck. His team had gathered everything: complete documentation for the Amazon HQ2 proposal, including projected job counts, salary figures, and economic influence estimates, detailed cost evaluations of the Green New Deal from numerous economic research groups, all concluding with similarly staggering financial numbers, video footage from Venezuela showing desolate stores, citizens scavenging in refuse, and protests against the collectivist government AOC had commended, financial records indicating her opulent lifestyle, the apartment lease at Navy Yard, social media pictures showing expensive apparel, the Met Gala attendance captured from every possible perspective, her own online posts and assertions regarding economics that contradicted fundamental principles, congressional logs showing her complete lack of legislative achievement despite 3 years in office and relentless media focus. But Trump had also devised something more compelling: his own performance history, not abstract contentions for capitalism, but concrete results. Pictures of structures he had actually erected, employment records showing 22,000 individuals on his salary list across diverse companies, tax documents revealing billions contributed to governments over decades, agreements with suppliers and builders demonstrating economic movement, before and after photographs of Manhattan real estate. He had obtained testimonials from workers who had constructed careers within his enterprises. The distinction would be overwhelming: someone who had actually constructed entities under a market system versus someone who eliminated jobs while promoting collectivism. An individual understanding business via experience against someone with a diploma whom she clearly didn't comprehend. Someone who had generated wealth versus an individual who had only ever received a public salary while assailing wealth generation. A developer versus a mixologist, actuality versus Instagram, capitalism versus socialism. It was all organized in dossiers, it was all readied for presentation on the colossal screens Newsmax would have within their studio. All of it was formulated to substantiate a single point: socialism is a fantasy that consistently fails, and the individuals advocating for it do not comprehend fundamental economics or practical business. The ensuing 90 minutes would force a self-proclaimed economic authority to justify why she didn't understand how unemployment is measured, why she terminated 25,000 positions and applauded it, and why every nation that attempted her concepts concluded with citizens consuming zoo animals. If you have ever desired to witness what occurs when an actual job creator disputes someone who has eliminated them, prepare yourself and wait until Trump displays the photographs from her Met Gala presence at minute 28. The expression on her face is invaluable. The Newsmax facility in New York was crowded with 500 people, the largest audience the network had for any broadcast. The crowd was predominantly pro-Trump, MAGA headwear everywhere, with a tiny yet vocal segment of youthful AOC adherents in the corner, wearing Green New Deal shirts and appearing anxious in a thoroughly antagonistic setting. The ambiance was electrifying, confrontational, prepared for conflict. The set design was pure combat. Two lecterns facing each other at acute angles, massive screens ready to display proof, and Greg Kelly at the moderator's position, appearing as if he knew he was about to facilitate either the greatest discussion or the greatest dismantlement in cable news history. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez walked out first to acclamation from her small contingent and immediate derision from the Trump crowd. At 30, she wore what fashion sites would later confirm as a designer ensemble worth roughly $3,400, a fact Trump's team had already recorded and prepared to employ. She appeared self-assured, carrying herself with the confidence of someone whose every online post received hundreds of thousands of interactions, her talking points about the flaws of capitalism committed to memory and ready. She believed her youth, social media proficiency, and progressive endorsements would make her appear fresh and modern compared to Trump. She was about to discover why digital popularity doesn't convert to real-world economic understanding. Donald Trump emerged 2 minutes later to a resounding roar that shook the structure. The applause persisted for over 3 minutes. Trump, 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 mixed with USA, 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 and build the wall. Greg Kelly had to repeatedly request quiet. Trump wore his characteristic dark suit and crimson tie, waved to the assembly with those unique arm movements, and walked to his lectern holding something AOC immediately observed, multiple thick folders, which he placed down with deliberate force, ensuring the thud was audible. Her confident smile wavered. Trump with prepared materials was never positive for adversaries. Greg Kelly commenced with standard moderator language about respectful dialogue and focusing on content that lasted approximately 40 seconds. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, your opening remarks. AOC began her prepared statement in that distinctive voice that had become renowned from her popular videos. Thank you, Greg. Capitalism is a system that takes advantage of workers, amasses wealth in the hands of billionaires like Mr. Trump, and neglects working families. We require democratic socialism, a system where everyone has access to healthcare, education, housing, and dignity, where billionaires contribute their equitable portion, where workers, not corporations, are prioritized. She turned to face Trump with rehearsed conviction. Mr. Trump embodies everything that is wrong with American capitalism: avarice, inequality, exploitation. He has generated billions while working individuals struggle. He is the problem, not the answer. Her followers applauded enthusiastically. She relaxed, believing she had delivered a strong introduction. Trump regarded her with something between amusement and pity. When he spoke, his Queen's accent was heavy with mockery. Alexandria, may I call you Alexandria, or do you prefer Sandy? The audience laughed. AOC reacted defensively to the use of her childhood nickname. Let's discuss jobs, Trump proceeded. Actual jobs. The thing you have never established but have destroyed. Let's begin with Amazon. He extracted his first dossier before she could respond. When a bartender instructs a billionaire about job creation, bring documentation about the job she eliminated. Trump didn't wait for permission. He was already presenting documents on the colossal screens. Amazon wanted to construct their second headquarters in New York, your district, Queens. Do you recall this? AOC attempted to control the narrative. Amazon desired to exploit. I am going to halt you right there, Trump interrupted. Let's look at the facts, actual facts, not collectivist theory. Trump showcased Amazon's proposal on the screens. Amazon HQ2 New York City proposal, 25,000 jobs, average salary, $150,000. Total investment, $2.5 billion. Economic influence, $27 billion over 10 years. Tax incentives, $3 billion over 10 years. 25,000 jobs, Alexandria, high-paying jobs, technology jobs, an average salary of $150,000. Do you know how many individuals would love to earn $150,000 annually? He turned to the assembly. Raise your hand if you would like to earn $150,000 a year. Hundreds of hands shot up, followed by laughter and applause. But you drove Amazon away. You spearheaded the opposition. You eliminated this agreement. 25,000 jobs gone. Why? AOC attempted her prepared rejoinder. Those tax breaks were corporate welfare that could have been spent on— Stop. Trump's voice resonated through the facility. Right there, that sentence. That is where you prove you don't understand fundamental economics, despite your costly diploma. He paced towards center stage, now animated. Tax incentives are not funds you spend, Alexandria. They are funds you choose not to collect. Do you comprehend the distinction? AOC appeared unsettled. The $3 billion could have. Without Amazon, you get zero. You don't receive $3 billion to spend, you get nothing. Trump extracted his calculator prop, a comically oversized device that elicited laughter from the audience. Let me do the computation for you since you seem bewildered. $27 billion in economic influence over 10 years, that is what New York would have received, minus $3 billion in tax incentives distributed over 10 years. What is $27 billion minus $3 billion? He punched the calculator dramatically. $24 billion, that is what New York would have generated, but because of you, they got zero. You converted $24 billion into nothing. The audience erupted in applause. Trump wasn't finished. And you know what you said when Amazon left? You celebrated. You termed it a victory. You cost 25,000 families $150,000 a year jobs, and you celebrated. He displayed AOC's online post celebrating Amazon's departure. Today was the day a group of dedicated, everyday New Yorkers and their neighbors defeated Amazon's corporate greed. That is what you wrote. You defeated jobs. You defeated opportunity. You defeated $24 billion. Trump extracted more proof. You claim the tax breaks were money to spend elsewhere. You possess a degree in economics from Boston University. That institution costs about $60,000 annually. Your parents likely spent $250,000 on your education, and you don't comprehend the difference between tax incentives and government expenditure. He turned to the audience with exaggerated incredulity. This is who desires to manage America's economy, everyone. Someone who believes tax breaks are cash you can spend, someone who cost their own city 25,000 jobs and proclaimed it a triumph. AOC tried to defend herself. The jobs would have exploited, Trump erupted. They were going to pay $150,000 a year. I believe most individuals would love to be exploited at $150,000 a year. He pointed directly at her. I have created thousands of jobs, constructed towers, employed people, generated wealth. What have you accomplished? You eliminated 25,000 jobs. You are a job terminator, not a job creator, and you wish to lecture me on economics? His final line was delivered with maximum contempt. $93 trillion divided by 128 million households in America equals $726,562 per household. He looked at the audience. Can you afford $726,000? Because that is your share of Alexandria's Green New Deal. I am a billionaire, and even I think that is expensive. The audience laughed and applauded. Trump displayed the number on the screens in a huge font. $726,562 per household. Now, Alexandria, a simple question: how do we pay for this? AOC attempted her rehearsed answer. Through progressive taxation, by making billionaires and corporations pay their fair share. Let's do the math, Trump interrupted. All the billionaires in America, every single one, if we took 100% of their wealth, everything they have, we would get about $5 trillion. That leaves $88 trillion. Where does that come from? Nothing indicates I haven't thought this through like a plan that costs more than global GDP. AOC tried to take control. The Green New Deal will create millions of clean energy jobs. It is going to cost $93 trillion. Trump shouted over her. Do you know how much money that is? He began punching numbers into his giant calculator theatrically. $93 trillion over 10 years. That is $9.3 trillion per year. Now the entire GDP of the United States is about $25 trillion. Your plan costs more than a third of everything America produces annually for 10 years. He paused for effect, then continued. But let's make it personal. Let's talk about what this costs American families. He engaged in more calculator theatrics. $93 trillion divided by 128 million households in America equals $726,062 per household. He looked at the audience. Can you afford $726,000? Because that is your share of Alexandria's Green New Deal. I am a billionaire, and even I think that is expensive. The audience laughed and applauded. Trump presented the number on the screens in large font. $726,562 per household. Now, Alexandria, a simple question. How do we pay for this? AOC attempted her rehearsed response. Through progressive taxation by ensuring billionaires and corporations pay their equitable portion. Let's do the math, Trump interrupted. All the billionaires in America, every single one. If we took 100% of their wealth, everything they have, we would obtain about $5 trillion. That leaves $88 trillion. Where does that originate? AOC fumbled. Well, corporations. If we taxed everyone earning over $100,000 annually at 100%, took every penny they make, we still couldn't pay for your plan. You would have to tax the middle class into destitution. Is that your plan? Trump didn't wait for her answer. He extracted the infamous Green New Deal FAQ that had been deleted. Let's discuss what is actually in your plan because it is even more irrational than the cost. He displayed the deleted FAQ on the screens, highlighting specific sections. You wanted to eliminate air travel, construct trains across the ocean. How do we get to Hawaii, Alexandria, a train across the Pacific Ocean? The audience roared with laughter. You're worried about flatulent cows? Flatulent cows. That is in your official document. He displayed the exact quote. We set a goal to get to net zero rather than zero emissions in 10 years because we aren't sure that we will be able to fully get rid of farting cows. And my personal favorite, Trump continued with obvious delight, you wanted to provide economic security for all who are unable or unwilling to work. Unwilling? He looked at the audience in mock incredulity. You wanted to pay individuals who didn't want to work? How is that equitable to people who do work? How does that economy operate? Trump walked across the stage, gaining momentum. You compared this to the World War II mobilization, but World War II cost about $4 trillion in today's dollars. Your plan cost $93 trillion. That is 23 times more expensive than defeating Hitler and Imperial Japan combined. He turned back to AOC. And you deleted this FAQ. You issued it, people began asking basic questions like, how do we pay for this? And why are you worried about cow flatulence? And you got embarrassed and deleted it. AOC attempted to defend it. It was a draft document. It was your plan, your big concept. And when people pointed out how absurd it was, you pretended it never existed. Trump's voice rose to a crescendo. $726,000 per household. Eliminate airplanes. Worry about cow flatulence. Pay people who won't work. Construct trains across oceans, and you can't explain how to finance any of it. He held up the calculator one more time. This isn't policy, Alexandria. Regular Americans are struggling to pay rent, and you are going to $35,000 parties in designer dresses, attacking the rich. AOC attempted a defense. I was invited to make a statement. You made a statement, all right. You made a statement that you are a hypocrite. Trump pulled out more evidence of her luxury lifestyle. Let's talk about how you live, Alexandria, because I think America deserves to know. He displayed photos and records on the screens. Apartment, Navy Yard, Washington, D.C. Rent, $2,700 per month. That is $30,400 a year just for rent. Designer shoes, Manolo Blahnik, $580 a pair. Designer outfit, $300–400 for a photo shoot. Tesla, approximately $50,000. And her salary, $174,000 a year. Trump turned to the audience. He extracted a photograph that made AOC visibly uncomfortable. She knew precisely what was imminent. Wearing Tax the Rich to a $35,000 party is like PETA wearing fur to an animal shelter. Trump presented the photograph on every screen. AOC at the Met Gala in her white Tax the Rich dress, posing on the red carpet. This is you at the Met Gala, September 2021. Very nice dress, very bold statement. Tax the Rich, right across the back. He paused for impact. Ticket price to attend the Met Gala, $35,000. The audience gasped and then booed loudly. $35,000 for one night, one party. That is more than half of what the average American family earns in a year, and you wore a Tax the Rich dress to this party. Trump walked around his lectern, animated. Do you not see the irony? Do you not comprehend how out of touch that is? Average Americans are struggling to pay rent, and you are going to $35,000 parties in designer dresses attacking the rich. AOC attempted to defend. I was invited to make a statement about... You made a statement, all right. You made a statement that you are a hypocrite. Trump extracted more evidence of her opulent lifestyle. Let's discuss how you live, Alexandria, because I think America deserves to know. He presented photos and records on the screens. Apartment, Navy Yard, Washington, D.C., rent $2,700 per month. That is $3,400 a year just for rent. Designer shoes, Manolo Blahnik, $580 a pair. Designer outfit, $3,400 for a photo shoot. Tesla, approximately $50,000. And your salary, $174,000 annually. Trump turned to the audience. She earns $174,000 and complained, it's not enough to live on. The average household income in America is $70,000. She earns 2.5 times that and says it's not enough. He pointed at her. But you want to lecture people about inequality, about the rich not paying their fair portion. You reside in a luxury apartment, you drive a Tesla, you wear $580 shoes, you go to $35,000 parties. Trump walked toward her lectern. I am rich, I admit it. I built towers, I established jobs, I earned billions through business. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. But you assault the rich while living like them. You preach about inequality while attending elite parties. That is not democratic socialism, that is champagne socialism. He extracted his next revelation. And let's talk about where you are actually from, because you have constructed your entire brand on being from the Bronx. A girl from the Bronx. You say it all the time. Trump presented a map on the screens. You are not from the Bronx. You are from Yorktown Heights, Westchester County, one of the wealthiest areas in America. Photographs appeared. Suburban homes, pleasant neighborhoods, excellent schools, average home value $450,000. Your father was an architect, a professional, made good money. You attended Boston University, $60,000 a year tuition. Your family was comfortable, upper middle class. He turned to her with mock sympathy. There is nothing wrong with that, but you pretend you are working class. You manufactured this girl from the Bronx story because it plays well politically, but it is fake. AOC attempted to respond. My family moved when I was young. You grew up in wealthy Westchester. You attended expensive schools. Your family had money. You are not working class. You are just proficient at branding. Trump's final assault in this round was devastating. You bartended for a while after college. Many people do that. It's honest work. But you act like you were barely surviving. You possessed a degree from an expensive university. You chose to bartend while figuring out your next move. That is not struggle. That is privilege. He extended his arms wide. So, let's summarize. You go to $35,000 parties in Tax the Rich dresses. Trump shouted over her, "DI." They nationalized industries, they took from the rich, they promised free everything. Sound familiar? He displayed economic data, Inflation 1,000,000%. 1,000,000% inflation. GDP collapse 75%. Poverty rate 96%. People fleeing 7 million refugees. Trump pulled out printed tweets. And you know what you said about Venezuela? Let me read your own words. He displayed AOC's old tweets praising Venezuela's policies. You praised their programs. You said they were doing great things for workers. That was before they started eating zoo animals. The audience booed loudly. Trump moved to his next examples. Cuba. People flee on rafts, risk sharks and drowning to escape your socialist paradise. Why? Because socialism doesn't work. He extracted photographs that made even some in the audience wince. Socialism, where you begin eating zoo animals and call it equality. Trump displayed horrific images from Venezuela on the screens. Desolate grocery stores, individuals digging through trash, protesters being beaten by police. This is Venezuela, once the wealthiest nation in South America. They had oil resources, everything going for them. Then they attempted socialism, democratic socialism, just like you desire. He showed more photographs. This is people consuming zoo animals because there is no food. These are grocery stores with empty shelves. This is what socialism did to Venezuela. AOC attempted to interrupt. Venezuela's problems are due to socialism, Trump shouted over her. They nationalized industries, they took from the rich, they promised free everything. Sound familiar? He presented economic data. Inflation, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000% inflation. GDP collapsed 75%. Poverty rate 96%. People fleeing 7 million refugees. Trump extracted printed tweets. And you know what you said about Venezuela? Let me read your own words. He displayed AOC's old tweets praising Venezuela's policies. You praised their programs. You said they were doing great things for workers. That was before they started consuming zoo animals. The audience booed loudly. Trump moved to his next examples. Cuba. People flee on rafts, risk sharks and drowning to escape your collectivist paradise. Why? Because socialism doesn't work. USSR collapsed, failed, people starved, millions died. North Korea, starving in darkness. But hey, everyone's equally miserable. China had to adopt capitalism to survive. Every socialist nation fails or abandons socialism, every single one. He turned to AOC directly. Name one socialist country that succeeded, just one example of socialism working long-term. AOC fumbled. Nordic countries are not socialist, Trump interrupted. Denmark's prime minister said Denmark is not socialist. They are capitalist with social programs. They have lower corporate taxes than we do. They are not socialist. Trump was pacing now, his voice rising. Every time socialism fails, you say, that wasn't real socialism. It is never real socialism. It is only real socialism if it works, which it never does. He extracted more comparisons. Capitalism. America became the wealthiest nation in history. Billions lifted from poverty worldwide. Innovation, prosperity, freedom, socialism, zoo animals for dinner, empty shelves, refugees fleeing poverty, oppression, failure. Trump walked toward AOC's lectern. You want Americans to abandon what works for what always fails. You want us to attempt what made people consume zoo animals. You want us to become Venezuela. He shook his head in disgust. I have been to nations around the world, constructed projects globally. I have witnessed capitalism work. I have witnessed socialism fail. And you have an economics degree from a university that costs $60,000 a year, and you don't understand how unemployment is calculated? AOC tried to defend her point. The broader point I was making, the broader point is wrong. If the basic math is wrong, you made a statement that is mathematically impossible and you are an economics expert? Trump was on a roll now. Let's test your knowledge, Alexandria, since you went to such an expensive school. He pulled out his quiz questions. How is unemployment calculated? AOC started carefully. It is the percentage of people in the labor force who don't have jobs. Correct. So if someone has 2 jobs, they are counted once. So your statement was completely wrong. Trump moved to his next question. Tax incentives, are they government spending or money the government chooses not to collect? AOC hesitated, knowing this was about Amazon. Revenue foregone, money not collected. Not money to spend, which is why your Amazon argument was stupid. Trump pulled out more examples of her economic errors. You said we can just print money to pay for programs. That causes inflation. You said billionaires shouldn't exist. They employ millions. You said unemployment is from people working too hard. That is not how it works. He walked around his podium. After Boston University, you bartended. Nothing wrong with that honest work. But you never ran a business, never met payroll, never paid business taxes, never created a job, never employed anyone. Trump pointed at her. You mix drinks. That is your business experience, mixing drinks. And you want to redesign the American economy? He shook his head in exaggerated disbelief. I have employed 22,000 people, dealt with payroll taxes, regulations, contracts, unions, everything. I have actually done business. You have memorized some textbooks and mixed some cocktails. That is not the same thing. His final assessment was brutal. You have a $250,000 education in economics, but you don't understand unemployment, taxes, inflation, or basic business. You have never created a job, never run a company, never signed a paycheck except to cash your own, and you want to run America's $25 trillion economy? That is not confidence, that is delusion. Economics degree doesn't understand economics. Bartended, never created jobs. Comment, bartender economics. Trump grabbed his final folder before the climax. He held it up, noticeably thin. Let's review your record in Congress, your actual accomplishments. He opened the folder dramatically. It was completely empty. An empty folder for an empty record. Perfect. 3 years in Congress, Alexandria, 3 years. Let's see what you have accomplished. Trump pretended to read from the empty folder. Major legislation passed, 0. Bills signed into law, 0. Jobs created, 25,000. Problems solved, none. Committee leadership, none. He looked up at her. But you have 13 million Twitter followers, so there's that. The audience laughed and applauded. Trump pulled out actual records. The Green New Deal, your signature legislation, your big idea. Let's see how it did in the Senate. He displayed the vote, 0 to 57. 0 votes. Not even Democrats voted for it. Your own party looked at your plan and said, this is insane. He showed more failed initiatives. Amazon, you killed it. 25,000 jobs lost. Immigration reform, you opposed everything, no solutions offered. Healthcare, complained about everything, proposed nothing that could pass. Climate change, Green New Deal failed, no alternative offered. Trump walked towards center stage. You have been in Congress for 3 years. You haven't passed a single significant piece of legislation. You haven't created any jobs. You haven't solved any problems. What have you actually done? AOC tried to list accomplishments. AOC tried to list. I have raised awareness. Awareness! Trump exploded. That is not governing. That is tweeting. You have raised awareness. Congratulations, you are an influencer. He pointed at her accusingly. You are not a legislator. You are an influencer with a government job. You are good at Instagram, good at TikTok, good at viral videos. But legislating, governing, actually solving problems, you have done nothing. Trump pulled out his comparison. I built Trump Tower, Trump International, dozens of buildings, golf courses worldwide, 22,000 employees, billions in economic activity. I created things, real things you can see and touch. What have you built? A Twitter following. That is it. That is your accomplishment. Social media followers. He pulled out his final devastating piece of evidence. You remember your grandmother in Puerto Rico, damaged home from Hurricane Maria? Trump showed AOC's tweets about her grandmother. You posted about her, used her suffering to attack Trump, made it very political, very public. He pulled out the fundraiser information. Then conservatives raised money to help her, $14,153. Real money to fix her home from people who wanted to help. Trump displayed the GoFundMe total. And you know what you did? You rejected it. Your office refused the money. Why? Because it came from conservatives. The audience booed loudly. Your own grandmother is living in a damaged home and you rejected $14,000 to help her because of politics? You put your political brand ahead of your own family. Trump's voice was filled with genuine disgust. That tells me everything I need to know about you. You used your grandmother for political points. Then when people tried to actually help her, you said no because it would ruin your narrative. His final summary was devastating. 3 years in Congress, zero legislation, lost 25,000 jobs, rejected help for your own grandmother. But you have 13 million Twitter followers, and you are great at Instagram. That is not a congresswoman, that is an influencer. And America deserves better than selfies and socialism. 3 years, zero legislation, 13 million followers. Influencer, not legislator. Share if you want real leaders. Greg Kelly attempted to move to closing statements, but Trump raised his hand. Actually, Greg, I want to make this very clear before we finish, because I think America needs to understand the choice. Trump stood up from his podium and walked to center stage, leaving all his folders behind as evidence of everything he had presented. Alexandria wants socialism, democratic socialism, whatever she calls it to make it sound nice. I have built things under capitalism. Let's compare, let's really compare. He turned to face her directly. I started with a loan from my father. I built it into billions. I constructed towers in Manhattan, Trump Tower, 40 Wall Street, Trump International. I built hotels in Chicago, Las Vegas, Washington, D.C. I built golf courses around the world, Scotland, Ireland, Dubai. Trump gestured broadly. I employed 22,000 people, thousands of contractors, hundreds of suppliers. I created economic activity measured in billions. I paid billions in taxes. I created wealth. I created jobs. I created things. He pointed at the audience. That is capitalism, creating value, building, employing, growing, making things that didn't exist before. He turned to AOC. 3 years in Congress, zero jobs created, actually minus 25,000 because of Amazon. Zero legislation passed, one plan that cost $93 trillion you can't fund, a Twitter following. Trump walked slowly across the stage. That is socialism, destroying instead of building, taking instead of creating, complaining instead of solving, tweeting instead of governing. He pulled out the comprehensive comparison he had prepared. Amazon, why create jobs? You killed 25,000 of them. Green New Deal, I built real projects. You proposed a $93 trillion fantasy. Wealth, I created billions through business. You attack wealth while living in luxury. Venezuela, I warned socialism fails. You praised it before they ate zoo animals. Economics, I understand business from experience. You have a degree you don't understand. Results, I have towers and jobs. You have Twitter and excuses. Trump's voice became more forceful. You want to know the difference between capitalism and socialism? I will tell you. He started ticking off points. Capitalism built America into the richest nation in history. Socialism made Venezuela eat zoo animals. Capitalism lifted billions out of poverty worldwide. Socialism created poverty wherever it is tried. Capitalism created innovation. Cars, planes, computers, smartphones. Socialism created breadlines. Capitalism gave us choices and freedom. Socialism gave us empty shelves and oppression. Capitalism works. Socialism fails every single time. Trump walked toward AOC's podium. You are a bartender with an economics degree who killed 25,000 jobs and called it victory. Who wants to spend $93 trillion you can't fund? Who lives like the rich while attacking the rich? Who has zero accomplishments except Twitter? Who rejected help for your own grandmother for political reasons? He paused for maximum impact. And you want to run America's economy? You want to replace capitalism, which made us the richest nation on earth, with socialism, which made people eat zoo animals? Trump's voice rose to its crescendo. America has a choice. We can continue with capitalism, free markets, innovation, opportunity, wealth creation, or we can try socialism, government control, economic failure, poverty, and zoo animals for dinner. He spread his arms to encompass the audience and cameras. I know which one I choose. I built an empire under capitalism. I created jobs, I created wealth, I made America richer. He pointed at AOC one final time. She wants to destroy what works and replace it with what always fails. Don't let her. Don't let anyone tell you socialism is the future. The future is what we build, and you can't build anything under socialism except poverty. The audience erupted into a standing ovation that lasted over 5 full minutes. Chants of Trump, Trump, Trump mixed with USA, 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 and capitalism works were deafening. AOC sat at her podium, unable to respond effectively to the comprehensive destruction. Every point Trump made was backed by evidence, her own votes, her own statements, economic data, historical results. She couldn't deny killing the Amazon jobs. She couldn't explain the Green New Deal costs. She couldn't defend her luxury lifestyle while preaching socialism. She couldn't name a successful socialist country. She could only sit there as her socialist fantasy collapsed under the weight of evidence and reality. The video exploded across every platform with unprecedented speed. Within 2 hours, 27 million views. Within 24 hours, 98 million views. Within 1 week, 167 million total views, one of the most watched political debates in modern history. Hashtag killed 5,000 jobs became the #1 trending topic on Twitter within minutes. Bartender economics became an instant meme. Farting cows resurfaced from the Green New Deal and went viral again. $726,000 per household appeared on countless conservative graphics. Photos of AOC's Met Gala appearance juxtaposed with Tax the Rich trended for days. Conservative media went into celebration mode that extended far beyond typical post-debate analysis. Fox News didn't just play the full debate 4 times in 48 hours. They created special programming around it. Sean Hannity dedicated an entire week to segments breaking down each of Trump's attacks, bringing in economists to verify the numbers, historians to discuss socialism's failures, and business leaders to contrast Trump's job creation with AOC's job destruction. Tucker Carlson did a segment titled "The Bartender versus the Billionaire: Why Socialism Always Loses," which became his most-watched episode of the year. Laura Ingraham brought on former Amazon executives to discuss what New York lost when AOC killed the HQ2 deal. Newsmax, riding high from hosting the debate, created a 2-hour documentary special titled "Capitalism on Trial: How Trump Defended Free Markets," featuring extended clips, expert analysis, and additional examples of socialist failures worldwide. The special aired 3 times in 1 week and became the network's highest-rated program ever. They followed it up with a multi-part series examining democratic socialism's appeal to young voters and why the debate marked a turning point. Conservative podcasters made the debate required content for their audiences. Ben Shapiro's detailed analysis, going through each of Trump's arguments point by point and verifying the evidence, was downloaded 15 million times in the first week. Dan Bongino called it the single most effective destruction of socialism I have ever witnessed, and dedicated multiple shows to playing clips and adding context. Charlie Kirk made it mandatory viewing at Turning Point USA events. Jordan Peterson praised Trump's defense of wealth creation and individual initiative. Every major conservative voice amplified the debate's impact. However, the real story was how the debate penetrated beyond conservative echo chambers into mainstream consciousness and even liberal circles, where people were forced to confront uncomfortable facts. The evidence Trump presented, Amazon's specific proposal, the Green New Deal's calculated costs, Venezuela's documented collapse, AOC's verifiable lack of legislative accomplishments, couldn't be easily dismissed as partisan spin. These were numbers and facts that could be verified. Young voters, particularly those who had found AOC's brand of socialism appealing through social media, started questioning what they had been sold. TikTok and Instagram, platforms where AOC had excelled, suddenly filled with videos of young people doing research. After the debate, I looked up the Amazon deal, and she really did cost New York $27 billion. became a common theme. The Green New Deal really would cost $726,000 per household appeared in countless posts. I watched footage from Venezuela, and now I understand why socialism fails, trended among Gen Z users. Focus groups of voters under 30 showed dramatic shifts in attitudes towards socialism after watching the debate. Polling showed dramatic shifts. Would you support democratic socialism? Before debate, 42% of young voters said yes. After debate, 23% said yes. Did AOC handle the Amazon situation correctly? Before, 38% approved her opposition. After, 19% approved. Should the Green New Deal be pursued? Before, 47% supported exploring it. After, 28% supported it. The Amazon segment had a particular impact. New Yorkers who had lost out on those 25,000 jobs felt vindicated in their anger at AOC. The debate gave them evidence to share, showing exactly what she had cost the city. Local politicians who had supported Amazon began openly criticizing her. Even some progressive Democrats quietly admitted she had made a mistake, though they wouldn't say so publicly. The Green New Deal became toxic political territory. Democrats running in competitive districts began explicitly distancing themselves from it, saying they supported realistic climate action. The $93 trillion cost estimate became impossible to defend. The farting cows reference became a punchline that killed any serious discussion of the policy. Moderate Democrats blamed AOC for making climate policy look ridiculous. AOC's champagne socialist lifestyle became a major vulnerability. Every time she appeared in expensive clothes or at elite events, conservatives posted clips from the debate showing Trump exposing her hypocrisy. The Met Gala photo became one of the most shared political images of the year. Tax the rich while attending $35,000 parties became shorthand for progressive hypocrisy. Her Tesla ownership while attacking fossil fuels generated endless mockery. The Venezuela comparison proved devastating. Footage of empty shelves and people eating zoo animals, contrasted with AOC's old tweets praising Venezuelan socialism, destroyed her credibility on economic policy. "Do you want to eat zoo animals?" became a conservative rallying cry against socialism. Parents showed their children the Venezuela footage as a warning about what socialism produces. Her complete lack of legislative accomplishments became impossible to defend. The empty folder image went viral. 13 million Twitter followers, 0 laws passed, appeared on countless memes. Moderates who had been willing to give her a chance as a young legislator concluded she was ineffective. Democratic leadership, already frustrated with her, began more openly criticizing the progressive wing for having no achievements to show. The grandmother story particularly damaged her with Latino voters. Using family for political points, then refusing help when it was offered, struck many as cruel and narcissistic. Conservative Latino groups made it a major talking point, arguing that AOC cared more about her brand than her own family. 3 months after the debate, a moderate Democrat announced a primary challenge to AOC in her New York district, and his campaign strategy centered entirely on the debate's revelations. His announcement video featured clips of Trump destroying her on Amazon, showing the 25,000 jobs lost and the $27 billion in foregone revenue. "Our district deserves someone who brings jobs, not someone who chases them away for political points," he said directly to camera. "We need a representative who understands that tax breaks aren't money to spend, who knows how to attract businesses instead of driving them out, who focuses on results instead of Instagram followers." The response shocked political observers. His first-week fundraising totaled $3.1 million, an enormous sum for a House primary challenger. Polling showed him immediately competitive with AOC's support in her own district, dropping below 50%. Her unfavorable ratings had spiked dramatically, particularly among voters who had supported Amazon and felt she had cost them economic opportunity. Moderate Democrats and even some progressives who were tired of her focus on media attention over governance began rallying to the challenger. Democratic leadership began distancing themselves from AOC more openly than they had ever done before. Nancy Pelosi, when asked about the debate at a press conference, gave a curt, "Every member is responsible for their own statements and record," and refused to defend her. Chuck Schumer, pressed on whether he supported the Green New Deal, said Democrats needed to focus on practical solutions that can actually pass and be implemented, in a clear rebuke to her signature legislation. Other prominent Democrats who had previously praised AOC as a rising star went conspicuously silent or gave carefully neutral statements that amounted to throwing her under the bus. Committee assignments she had hoped to gain went to other members. Endorsements she had expected from party leaders never materialized. Invitations to high-profile party events dried up. Behind closed doors, according to reports from Democratic staffers, leadership had concluded she was a liability, someone who generated media attention but couldn't govern, who inspired young progressives but alienated everyone else, and who had been thoroughly exposed by Trump as economically illiterate and legislatively ineffective. Trump himself enjoyed a surge in credibility on economic issues that extended beyond his traditional base of support. Voters who had dismissed him as merely insulting opponents or making things up recognized that he had presented actual evidence and substantive arguments backed by verifiable facts. His comparison between capitalism's success and socialism's failure resonated with suburban swing voters, independents who had been skeptical of both parties, and even some moderate Democrats who had grown tired of progressive economic fantasies. Post-debate polling showed his economic approval rating rising to 54%, his highest level ever recorded. The job creator versus job killer framing he had established stuck powerfully in voters' minds, appearing in Republican campaign ads across the country. 1 year after the debate, AOC had become significantly less influential in Democratic politics. Her legislation went nowhere. Her endorsements in primaries mostly failed. Her social media engagement, while still high, no longer translated to political power. She had been exposed as an influencer with no real accomplishments, and the party treated her accordingly. The debate fundamentally shifted how many Americans, particularly young people who had been open to socialism, viewed the ideology. Trump had made the case not through abstract arguments but through concrete examples: Venezuela's collapse, the Green New Deal's insane costs, AOC's own failure with Amazon. Socialism became harder to promote as a cool modern idea when associated with eating zoo animals and $726,000 household costs. This wasn't a debate about political philosophy or abstract ideological principles. This was a confrontation between reality and fantasy, between someone who had built things and someone who destroyed them, between capitalism that creates wealth and socialism that creates poverty. Donald Trump built a multi-billion-dollar empire by creating value through construction, development, and branding. He employed 22,000 people. He constructed towers that stand in the Manhattan skyline. He created jobs, paid taxes, and generated economic activity. Whatever you think of him personally, his wealth came from building things people wanted, employing people who needed jobs, and creating value in the marketplace. That is capitalism. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spent 3 years in Congress and accomplished nothing except social media fame. She killed 25,000 jobs and called it victory. She proposed a $93 trillion plan she couldn't fund. She lived in luxury while attacking the rich. She praised socialism while every socialist country failed or abandoned it. She had an economics degree she clearly didn't understand. She was an influencer playing congresswoman, and it showed. For 90 minutes, Trump systematically destroyed not just AOC, but the entire socialist fantasy she represented, with evidence of Amazon's lost jobs and the revenue New York forfeited, with cost breakdowns of the Green New Deal showing the astronomical expense per household, with footage from Venezuela showing what socialism actually produces, with her own statements showing economic ignorance, with her empty legislative record showing ineffectiveness, with her luxury lifestyle showing hypocrisy. The receipts were undeniable. The Amazon numbers: 25,000 jobs, $150,000 average salary, $27 billion in economic impact, came from Amazon's public proposal. The Green New Deal cost $93 trillion, came from economic analyses. The Met Gala ticket price $35,000 was public record. The Venezuela collapse, people eating zoo animals, million% inflation was documented. Reality, her zero legislation passed, was verifiable congressional record, all facts, all proven, all impossible to dispute. AOC represented something dangerous that Trump exposed. Politicians who sound good on social media but understand nothing about economics or business, who promote theories that always fail but have never studied why, who live in luxury while preaching equality, who destroy jobs while claiming to help workers, who accomplish nothing but get credit for trying. Trump proved capitalism works and socialism fails, not through economic theory, but through evidence anyone could understand. He built towers, socialism produces bread lines. He created jobs, socialism destroys them. He generated wealth, socialism creates poverty. America got rich through capitalism. Countries trying socialism ate zoo animals. The choice Trump laid out was stark and undeniable. Build or destroy, create or take, capitalism or socialism, Trump Tower or empty Venezuelan grocery stores, reality or fantasy. If you choose capitalism over socialism, share this story. Comment, capitalism wins if you'd rather have jobs than zoo animals for dinner. Because Trump just proved with evidence why America became the richest nation on earth, and it wasn't because of bartender economics or $93 trillion Green New Deal fantasies. It was because we let people build, create, and keep what they earned. And that's a lesson worth remembering before we let anyone replace what works with what always fails.